It's scripted at this point. Somewhere in America, there's a mass shooting, and before the details are known, before the bodies have cooled, politicians and mainstream media activists capitalize on the emotional vulnerability of the public to push a political agenda. Despite the fact that data shows that intense media coverage encourages copycat attacks, television networks cram in as much coverage of these horrific events as they can, with most tapping as many politicians and pundits as they can to use this moment to call for gun control. Never let a good crisis go to waste is a widespread political tactic that exploits fear, confusion, and irrationality to push through legislation that otherwise would never have seen the light of day. And this practice is employed every single time there's a mass shooting. The truth is that the public is being manipulated, because the people with the microphones, the talking heads on television, the so-called political leaders that many trust, make a conscious decision to omit and distort facts, to intentionally mislead people into supporting policies that will destroy their constitutional rights and ultimately leave them less safe. Right now, we see politicians around the country ratcheting up incendiary language to stoke as much fear as possible in order to try to force through measures to supposedly address gun violence, despite the fact that nearly everything they're pushing would have zero impact on reducing gun crime. Most of these measures would only punish law-abiding Americans. And these merchants of fear are only successful in swaying the public because they shamelessly misrepresent the facts about firearms and firearm deaths in this country. For instance, those who try to talk you into giving up your Second Amendment right to self-defense don't tell you that guns are used far more often for defensive purposes than to commit crimes. According to data reported by the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, there are between 500,000 and 3 million defensive uses of firearms every single year in the United States. That means guns are used far more to save lives than to kill. The anti-gun lobby also intentionally misleads you by using terms like assault weapons, military-style rifles, and weapons of war, despite the fact that none of the weapons they want to ban and none of the weapons used in mass shootings are actual weapons of war. And they further mislead you by not telling you that handguns actually comprise 72.5% of the firearms used in murder and non-negligent manslaughter incidents. This includes mass shootings. They also mischaracterize the true nature of firearm deaths in the U.S. For instance, although there were 39,773 gun deaths in 2017, 60% of those are from suicides, 29% were from gang violence. So 89% of all firearm deaths aren't random attacks or mass shootings, they're from suicides and gangs. Also keep in mind that 486 gun deaths were accidents and 782 were justifiable homicides. What all this means is that the truth about gun deaths in America is far different from what leftist activist groups and politicians tell you. Because the United States has a population of roughly 329 million people. And when we filter out suicide, gang-related murders, accidents, and justified shootings, there's less than one firearm death per 100,000 people in the U.S. every year, making the U.S. among the lowest in the world for per capita firearm deaths. To put it another way, according to the FBI data, more people die from knives, hands and feet, and hammers than from rifle shootings. And there are 40,000 people a year killed by automobiles, but you don't hear politicians saying we need to ban cars. Oh, and about that ban on assault weapons, we had one back in 1994, and it wasn't renewed in 2004 because studies show that the assault weapons ban did not reduce gun crime. Mark Twain once said, "Never let the truth get in the way of a good story." And most of these fearmongers certainly don't. Politicians, reporters, and pundits who leave out these facts when they're scaring you into signing away your constitutional rights are intentionally manipulating you. They know the facts and they choose to not properly inform the public they're supposed to serve. And they're certainly not defending the Constitution they swore to uphold. Firearm data clearly show we don't have a gun problem, we have a suicide and gang problem. Issues that the anti-gun politicians won't touch, in part because policies that they supported in the past have created the conditions that led to both more suicides and more gangs. Now, these facts aren't to minimize the pain and destruction caused by mass shootings or anyone who was affected by gun violence. However, they do serve to paint a clearer picture than what we would hear from politicians in a media establishment that seeks to leverage an emotional public to push policy prescriptions that have little to no chance of stopping crime, particularly gun crime. The loudest voices screaming gun control now don't care about saving lives. They don't care about reducing crime. Otherwise, they would back legislation that actually has a chance of reducing gun violence. All they care about is patting themselves on the back and making themselves feel like they did something, even if that something has zero chance of stopping another mass shooting.